If I could build my dream theme park resort, what would it be like? And how cool would it be? One of the things that, as a theme park nut and Disney fan, that you can't help but do sometimes is just kind of dream of what it would be like to build your own theme park resort.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe.
Games like Roller Coaster Tycoon are amazing for feeding this. Over the course of the years, I have to admit, I've definitely thought about it. So what would it be like? What would I do if I had unlimited money, land was not an issue, resources weren't a problem? What would I want to build? To give you an idea, I really went all out. I even did some amazing, fancy planning artwork. I mean, get a load of this. This is really what I decided to do is I'm going to be doing a series of videos on what my dream theme park resort would be. I already did one talking about what it would be like for employees. And I'll talk more about backstage stuff and things like that if I could build anything I wanted. But I kind of wanted to lay out the floor plan of the resort itself. Multiple parks. I'll talk about each individual park in separate videos later on. Different areas around the resort. But kind of want to give an idea of what the resort itself would be like. It would have more than one park. I've got them kind of laid out here. This is inspired by Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Universal Studios Resort in Florida, Disneyland Paris, and a number of other things. And so I've taken a lot of different elements from different parks and kind of put them in here. Even a couple I haven't visited, like Tokyo. So one of the first things to note is there's 3 parks. They're all kind of grouped here, and they'd all actually be kind of angled a little bit. One of my big goals with this is I want the parks close enough that you can walk from one to the other. I love at Disneyland where you can walk across the plaza from Disneyland into California Adventure. That's fantastic. I love at Disneyland Paris. You can walk out of Disneyland Paris, again, through this plaza area and go over to Studios. Or to Disney Village, which is their shopping area. It's all within easy walking distance. And so that's part of the big goal here, is I want everything within easy walking distance. Now, again, thinking 3 major parks and the shopping area, it's going to be a lot more people, so it would be spread out a little bit more. But you take the parks, you'd angle them a little bit, you'd have a nice big area here that can hold a lot of people. That would be kind of the center of the resort. You notice I got a couple funny little icons. So this would be my Immersive Adventure Park, and we'll talk more about that later. My Magic Kingdom style park, and then a Studios park. I love Studios, and I'll talk about that when I get to that park. So those 3 parks are all kind of there. There's other things that I do like from other parks, and you're going to see how I incorporate some of that too. One of the things I absolutely loved with Disneyland Paris was as you walked into the park, you walked under the big Disneyland hotel that was right there. It was actually part of the entrance. People got to stay really right smack in the center of the resort, and I thought that was amazing. This is a terrible rendition of it, but that's meant to represent the Disneyland Hotel. And it would actually be kind of like Disneyland Paris, right over the entrance. It would give it kind of a castle-like look at the entry, and it would also provide a blockage, a berm, a way to transition from this world into the park, which is something that I really liked that Walt did in the original parks. So yes, it would have the nice fancy hotel. There would be more resort hotels as well. They'd actually be kind of out here, and I'll talk a little bit more about them, but they would have different theming and everything, transportation in multiple ways into this area, and I'll talk about that coming up as well. 3 parks, major hotel, and then the shopping area right here. This is your version of Downtown Disney, the Disney Village, Disney Springs. I would actually probably call it the World Emporium or something like that. I love World Showcase at Epcot. It's one of my favorite places in all of the parks. But I was trying to figure out how to incorporate it into the parks itself, and it wasn't fitting. And then I thought about it. One of the things I love is just visiting all the different stores and seeing the different merchandise. And, well, hey, why don't we incorporate that into the shopping area? So this would be my World Bazaar, where you would have different areas in it themed to different regions or different countries, where you would feel like you were walking around in Asia, in China or Japan, or that you went to Africa, or that you were in Germany and Holland, or in Russia. And so you would get to visit all of these different countries while you're shopping. There'd be restaurants themed to it, of course. Wouldn't necessarily have very much in the way of rides. Might have a couple movies just to kind of highlight the culture. But the idea is to create an open air market. So if you can imagine walking around an open air shopping area where maybe you would have stalls that look like they're the shopping areas in Latin America or the Middle East, the open air markets. You'd have food that would actually be out there right where people could see it. I would love to be able to bring in the feel of the shopping areas from other parts of the world. Not just so you have a bunch of professional glitzy stores, but that you would actually feel like you're walking into those areas with the vendors out on the street side sometimes and things like that. I think that would be one of the coolest ways to immerse you into all of these different regions while you're still having fun shopping. You could take some of the brands that are currently in downtown Disney and stuff, and you could incorporate them easily enough into this, fitting in with the theme. So a sandwich shop could fit into the Europe with France or England, depending upon the type of sandwiches that you have. The Lego store, well, hey, that fits right into Denmark and Holland. So you can definitely find ways to incorporate those things. But I love that part of Epcot, and I think that would be awesome to incorporate it into the shopping area and just give it a whole theme and a reason to exist by itself. That for me would be fantastic. Lots of parking, of course. You got parking out here, parking out there. One other thing I'd want to avoid is an entrance like Universal's if you're coming from the parking lots. To go all the way from those parking garages through the long walkways, and then the security checkpoint, and then more long walkways, and then you have to walk all the way through City Walk. It's a long walk. And so part of my design here is hoping to be able to save people some of that walking, where the parking lot entrances would actually be close enough that people could walk in and be right near the entrances. And if need be, run a tram. But those walkways at Universal are way too long. Don't want that. I don't want people exhausted before they even get in the park. Because people got to come into the park. So here's the multiple ways that you would be able to come in. You could drive your car and park. That isn't the optimal way, but it is possible. You can actually come in through the train service. If you've ever been to Disneyland Paris, you know that you can actually stay all the way in Paris itself, which is actually a pretty good distance. And you can hop onto the commuter trains and go right up to the park. There's even a stop that's 5 minutes away from the parks at a wonderful place called Val d'Europe. And I'm sorry, I completely massacred the pronunciation, I'm sure. You can ride the trains in. They run every few minutes. They're big trains. So it's a great way to bring people in. So you got a train station that's right here that unloads into this big center area. Very similar to Disneyland Paris. If you're staying at the resort hotels, again, most of them are kind of out here. Well, the red represents the monorail loop. I mean, hey, you gotta have the monorail. And again, large trains to be able to bring people in. They would also run bus services, so there would be a drop-off right in here for the resort buses, as well as for taxis and Ubers and stuff like that. So you could ride those in. So you could drive, you could take the hotel monorail, you could take the hotel buses, you could take the train. The train would kind of be the goal to bring more people in because it saves space here. If you've got a good commuter rail service, which we here in the States oftentimes are like, what? What's that? But if you live in a major city, you know how those can actually work and work very well. And bring in and out a lot of people. So trains would be a big thing. Multiple security points because of the multiple ways of people coming in. The stars kind of represent the security checkpoints. You got one that would be just for the train. You'd have one for this parking lot. You'd have one for this parking lot. If you had another parking lot out here, which is entirely possible for the shopping area, then you would have another security checkpoint there. Disneyland Paris had 5 main security checkpoints, and you could come in through any of those into the resort area. And they were fast, efficient, they had great metal detectors. Disneyland's security has actually worked very well on this. If you're staying at the resorts, well, you go through security to go into the resort, so you don't need to go through security to ride the monorail or the bus. You could drop you off and you'd already be cleared through security, and that would just speed all of that up. Again, multiple security points, but make it fast and smooth and easy. Hopefully you wouldn't need security like Europe. Don't want to have the military walking around the resort area. But hey, if you do need it, it's there. But that's kind of an overlook of the resort. 3 major parks, wonderful shopping area that people will actually want to spend a day at, as opposed to looking like a generic outdoor shopping mall. Riding the train in, which is always a fun experience, and lots of fun that way. So, then we've got to start developing the parks. Trust me, this is going to be fun. I've already got these kind of outlined and can't wait to show it. So what do you think? Would you agree, disagree? Would there be things that you would change about this? Suggestions, improvements? I'd love to hear your comments. Have you decided something similar to this? I'd love to hear what you would do as well. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for hitting that like button, sharing, and subscribing as well. Thank you as well to my financial supporters, my patrons, my YouTube members. Their support means the world to me. It really does, and helps me improve my equipment, do some traveling like you've been seeing all the traveling videos, and so much more. I also want to give a huge shout out for John Cadle for increasing his pledge. Thank you so much, John, and thank you so much for watching. God bless. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to know about contact information, fan pages, merchandise, and more, please be sure to check the description below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to know when I have new ones, well, make sure you hit that subscribe button right up there. And if you want to see another one of my videos, well, I've got a great one for you right here. And a huge thank you to these wonderful people here who support me on Patreon and with YouTube memberships. They get behind the scenes information, special perks, and more. If you'd like to know more about that, well, make sure you check that button right there. Thank you so much.